Educational Communications and this station present Environmental Directions with Nancy Pearlman. On this series, we explore the effects of human influence on the Earth's ecosystems and discuss solutions to environmental problems which affect the quality of life on this planet. Environmental Directions gives you the kind of information you need to help you participate in decisions impacting your community, the nation, and the world. Now, here's your host, Nancy Pearlman.
Hello. We are going to be talking about how theater can transmit environmental issues and be used to inform the public. My guest is Ellen Geer. She is the artistic director of the Will Geer Theatricum Botanicum in Topanga, California. She has produced and directed well over 100 theatricum productions, including plays by Shakespeare, Tennessee Williams, Chekhov, Thornton Wilder, and Greek classics. Her most recent play that she wrote included Wendy's Peter Pan. She has also created at the Theatricum the Academy of Classics, School Days, Classroom Enrichments, and other programs. She has worked continuously for over 46 years in television and motion pictures and has received many awards, including a Career Achievement Award from the LA Weekly, Best Actress for Long Day's Journey into Night from the Los Angeles Drama Critics Circle, a Woman of the Year Award from the County of Los Angeles, and special recognition from UCLA for her work in theater. Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you back on Environmental Directions.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here. I'm exhausted with all that.
I don't know how you create so many incredible productions, but I want to talk first before we go into some of the current plays in your holiday fair that's coming up, more about the theater itself, because it's outdoors. It's in a beautiful natural environment. And every year when I go see one of your productions, you utilize the nature that you have there, the trees, the trails, the ravine. How did this theater start?
Oh, it was many, many years ago. It was actually in the 50s. My mother and father were out here when we were children because he had been blacklisted by the House Un-American Activities Committee. They had to find a place to live, and Topanga at that time, it didn't have city water. Everything was on a septic tank. It was very, very rough living up here. So when you take work away from an actor, it's a terrible thing. When you're a writer, you can change your name and write wherever you want to write. But for an actor, it was terrible, and it took 10 long years until my father recovered and was hired again doing Shakespeare in Stratford, Connecticut. But up here, this land is so precious. It's under a beautiful, beautiful living oak tree forest. It's quite special. This is Topanga Canyon. So over the years, we've developed it more and more into a bigger theater so more people can enjoy it. Now every year we give a Native American blessing because we do feel without all the things that sometimes cities demand that you have. People come up here and they breathe easier, they're more relaxed. We want to keep that intimate feeling and that quality for people that come to see our work.
You have certainly succeeded. Since one is outdoors, one can see some of the bugs, maybe some birds flying by. I doubt if you'll see one of the mountain lions that inhabits the Santa Monica Mountains, but what other kind of animals and plants can they encounter?
We have the Shakespeare Garden, and there's these wonderful little plaques that tell you rosemary, that's for remembrance, and pray, love, remember, that's from Hamlet. And you'll see rosemary there. And you'll see rue, that's for thoughts. You'll see that there with the quote. It is a Shakespeare Garden that my dad and I used to have all over the country whenever we stayed at the theater long enough. What other plants? We have beautiful fountains that helps block the noise of the cars going by. Mostly natives. If you look down the creek now, all the non-native plants have been taken out, and we have all natives in there now. The deer walk up through there. It's a beautiful place to come and just relax and be and see.
You often have matinees, so one might see some of the other animals, be it the squirrels or birds flying by, than you would at nighttime, and when you also have performances.
Yes, we have the birds, and at 3 o'clock, right on the dot, you'll hear the sound of the bees far, far away, making their world, all sorts of different animals. It's lovely.
The garden that your father created.
Yes, the thing about my father, Will Geer, he had a horticultural degree from the University of Chicago. Plants really were as close to him as theater was in his family. So wherever he went in theaters, he would find a dirt patch and create a Shakespeare garden or put up some vegetables somewhere. Here, even at this theater, we connected with the Huntington Garden gardens, and they helped us start giving us clippings from their Shakespeare garden to start our Shakespeare garden here.
It's so important to enjoy nature while having an experience watching plays.
Yes, when the kids come out here, suddenly they'll be sitting there and they'll see there's a mouse. What's that? Oh, it's a stink bug. Oh, a lizard. It's wonderful to watch their expressions, especially city kids, for them to come across a bit of nature. They're really lucky they can see a coyote way in the back.
For 30 years, you've brought over 10,000 school children to see and experience theater.
Yeah, I think, the amazing thing about it, when they do come over the years, we began with 180 kids, and now we'll have up to 300 every school days in the spring and May, and then in the fall. In September, here they come, and the audience has changed from pure white to a total mixture, and that's very, very exciting for us to see that. And they love Shakespeare. They just love it.
You also provide educational programs, especially for young people, but also for adults. You have a repertory training program. Could you explain more of what that entails?
We started with school days, which was when we bus kids up and they come see the plays, and we go into their school and prepare them for the play and teach them some of the techniques that you learn about. But we also have a summer camp, which is very, very exciting time for kids. They end up doing a wonderful play, and it's a full production with costumes, everything. We have young people's classes all through the year here. There's also something that teachers demanded from us years ago. They wanted us to come into them. So we created a classroom enrichment, and that's where we'll go in and we'll put your kids there in school up in a play, or we'll bring a play to them. We also bring in other people like Homer, some Greek things. Whatever the teacher needs, we'll come in and dramatize it for them.
I definitely enjoy Shakespeare when I see your productions because it's so creative, using, again, that outdoor experience and having the actors come down the trails.
And pop wing out of the tree.
It's fun to watch. But you have also had screenings, including a very famous screening of a movie, Salt of the Earth, that your father performed in, which had a very important message.
Yeah, it's about the working class and what happens when the working class must go on strike because the greed sometimes that managers then, it was a picture called Salt of the Earth, and it was during the House of Un-American Activities Committee when actors were working. My father didn't work for 10 years, but he got hired to go to New Mexico and do this film. It was an important film. All the writers and the producers, they were all blacklisted themselves, but you can't stop creation. You just can't. People have a passion inside them, and they wanted to tell the story of current strike. And the most exciting thing about the strike to me was that the men weren't allowed to walk the line anymore, otherwise he'd be put in prison. So the women took over. So it turned out the Salt of the Earth turned into a real feminist film. It was machismo, real back then. And for them to get the strength to stand together and walk together and give the children to the men, and the men horrified, they didn't quite know what to do with them, to see that switch happen right there in that community for quite, I think it was 7-8 months, I'm not sure, but it was quite a long strike.
I remember your father playing Grandpa in the Waltons, but now I'm remembering your daughter and your granddaughter performing in many of your plays.
Yes.
Definitely a family occasion. Could you tell us a little bit about Wendy's Peter Pan?
Well, that's James Barrie. It's his wonderful, wonderful piece that he wrote about the children that were in his life. They weren't his own children, but they were his friends and neighbors, and he ended up bringing up these children. This is his story, and it was such a hit, and it's been a hit ever since. There's a whole thing, when you read that story, you want the next generation to have it, and the next generation to have it, because you have to go in there with no cynicism. It doesn't work. You have to go there with an absolute open heart, so that when Tinker Bell does almost die, and Peter Pan says, give me a hand if you believe in fairies, and have a whole audience erupt and start to clap, and the kids laughing and crying. And those are the feelings, those innocent, bare-bone feelings that we all crave, but we cover up with the different things that society throws at us. So what I did is I took this and I put it into actual Wendy, who's in Peter Pan. She grows up, and she's telling this story to her own children. She's been shy about it because it is so naked and honest and dear. Sometimes that's hard to do as societies go along. She's telling the story, and then the kids become her, and what it was like when she was young. I loved it. It was fun to do.
You have performed in theater, in television, in film, so many different roles. I'm always amazed how actors and actresses can memorize all those lines and perform them. Do you have a favorite, or is it the next one you're doing?
That's right. It's the next one I'm doing. It's a blessing to crawl into other people and figure out how they function. And what you do when you find out, you treat people better because you see what causes people pain or causes people happiness, and you're portraying it. And then all of a sudden, boom, there you are in life, and somebody's going through the same things, and you understand it deeper.
We don't have time to talk about all of last season's plays, Queen Margaret's version of Shakespeare's War of the Roses, Troubled Water, Enemy of the People, Tom, Merlin, The Untold Story, Dracula, A Dark Cloud Came, Dory, a musical portrait. But let's talk about what's coming up that people can go and enjoy, because you have your 4th annual Holiday Family Fair. It's going to be so beautiful there in the evening with all the lights.
Santa.
And you're going to have Santa and Mrs. Claus.
And we'll be doing St. George and the Dragon, which is an old 13th century play from the Miracle Plays. It's just a tradition. We used to do it when I was a kid on the Fifth Avenue bus. Wherever you went, we would do this play. It's wonderful to see how they used to do theater, the Mummers plays.
Not only are you going to have some plays, but you're going to have carolers singing musicals. You're going to have other performers doing all sorts of things.
We're doing This Is a Wonderful Life, which is going to be such fun. We're all the actors there. It's like an old 40s radio show. This Is Wonderful Life. That's going to be fun, too. That'll be on the main stage later on, because the event starts at 3, and then at 5 o'clock you can go into the main stage and see that. But out here on the grounds, we'll have all sorts of gifts, last-minute presents you have to get, some from local artisans. The whole parking lot is filled with that. That's going to be fun, too.
Because you do have the artisan marketplace.
Yes.
This is going to happen on December 14th, or if it rains, December 21st.
You got it.
And the theater is easy to find. It's midway between Pacific Coast Highway and the Ventura Freeway on Topanga Canyon Boulevard itself.
Perfection.
It's an enjoyable experience to go out. Which plays are you planning for next season?
The plans. This is exciting. We've got so many different things that are still rolling in our minds. But the idea had won a marvelous new, he's a very old playwright. He wrote with Bernard Shaw. His name was John Galsworthy. The elevated language of Shaw and the fun and the absurdity about society, all the way Shaw is. Well, John, he did it with his elevated language, but with John Galsworthy, it's deep. It's almost like he goes into the deep part of human beings, and he shows all sides. He doesn't judge. He doesn't make decisions. He's quite a remarkable writer that I've refound of that period. So I'm looking very hard at that. Oh, maybe we're going to take a check off and update it. Who knows what we're going to do. I want to do something about climate change.
We definitely need to see the old plays and the new plays that tell us the stories about what's going on in the environment, endangered species, climate change. You can utilize that natural environment. You have a tree right in the middle of your stage. You have trees behind it. You have the ravine next to it. One has to cross over Topanga Creek to get to your place.
Right. Yes, I do hope people will come, because you just walk across the bridge and you take a breath. There's a wonderful, respectful audience, and it's growing, and they're good to us. They're kind to us. They insist that we do Midsummer Night's Dream every year, which we do, which is a perfect way for any new family to come and introduce their kids to Shakespeare.
Is it easier to adapt older plays to incorporate environmental messages, social concerns that we now have, or to do newer plays that are very strongly connected to our current issues?
It all depends. I've been thinking lately, sometimes history can inform. It can inform in a way, whereas you just use exactly what's going on now, people back off of it. It's too much. No, because they're living it. But sometimes if you see it in a different era, a different time, it can say, geez, has this been going on this long? Isn't that amazing? I think we learn through our mistakes.
We learn from so much, and we can definitely learn in a pleasurable way watching actors perform and give us information in a different way than a book, a TV, a movie.
Well, for instance, in The Seagull, the young writer is talking about the end of the earth. But that was way back Chekhov's time when he was writing. But that could so easily be in the mind of a young person today who's deeply concerned about climate change. families, because what future do they have if we don't take care of the earth?
You love the classics, you love Shakespeare, but are you encouraging playwrights to write more plays about our current ecological crisis, about our need to love nature and protect our ecosystems and our plants and animals?
Absolutely. We have a wonderful man. He is a Topangan, Bernard, who we put on his play about how to get out and vote. He's been giving us classes here, and the students are engaging in climate change.
It seems as though every year you do Shakespeare, but you also do other plays. What's coming up?
This coming year, we're going to be doing, of course, Dream again, because it is the best way to introduce families to Shakespeare, and we're going to be bringing in a production of Much Ado About Nothing.
If people want to get more information, find out about times, tickets, where do they go?
www.theatricum.com. Call the main office 310-455-2322.
Fortunately, you are continuing your father's tradition, your daughter, your granddaughter, and many others in the family are continuing this beautiful experience of performances in the out of doors. I've enjoyed every single one that I've gone to. I want to thank you so very much for the excellent productions, for having this resource available to all of us. Thank you for being my guest.
Oh, thank you, Nancy. It was a pleasure to chat with you.
I have been speaking with Ellen Geer, who is the artistic director of the Will Geer Theatricum Botanicum. I'm Nancy Perlman. Thank you very much for joining us, and do tune in again next week.
If you would like free information about these environmental issues, go to www.ecoprojects.org or call 310-559-9160. Environmental Directions with your host, Nancy Perlman, is a community affairs program of the nonprofit organization Educational Communications and this station.